Let me get this out of the way. I have not seen any of the previous films in the Fast and the Furious franchise. I mean, I was a kid when they were first coming out, and they just never really appealed to me. I was more of a robots and spaceships sort of kid, so I was never really interested in cars all that much. So, really, it was just never something on my radar. So, I'm going into this completely blind. That's mainly why I'm bringing this up. So, as someone who hasn't seen any of the previous films, how does it hold up? Well, surprisingly well. Right away, I did not feel lost at all while watching this film. The film gives you enough information to fill in the gaps without getting caught in like annoying continuity snarls or without basically retreading all of the previous 6 films. I mean, yeah, there's some allusions here and there, and some scenes it may feel a bit like overkill with some of the references to past events, but for the most part, as someone who is going into it without any prior familiarity, it did a pretty good job of filling in some of the blanks. As for the story itself, I don't really have all that much to say aside from the fact that it is one of the most over-the-top films I have ever seen. And this is coming from somebody who's watched his fair share of action films and his fair share of superhero films. I mean, the enthusiasm in this film is almost infectious. It's an unapologetic action film that features fast cars, gunfights, and some pretty cool fight scenes. It doesn't bog itself down with a bunch of self-referential jabs or constant eye-rolling to say that it's being done for irony. It pretty much is what it is. It's like saying, hey, we're a fun action film. We've got fast cars, we've got fight scenes, we've got guns, we're basically going all out, and so yeah, it's pretty much the best example I've seen of a popcorn movie, one where you just kind of are there to just watch the absolute goofiness. Now, I know a lot of people think that you shouldn't use the phrase turn your brain off when applied to your movie, but really, this is the exact kind of film where you need to do that. Otherwise, you're gonna not have a good time. And that's really what this film is for, is to have a good time, to have fun while watching. The only criticism I can give is that the story felt a little bit crowded, as it was juggling kind of 2 main plot points. There's the one that's advertised in the trailers, with Jason Statham's character going after the Toretto, going after the main gang in revenge for his brother, who was the antagonist of a previous film. And then you have the kind of the major plot that kind of is what carries the whole film, which is where they're basically trying to rescue a hacker who has a program that allows them to track anybody on Earth in order to find the guy that's been going after them and killing off key people. And so, I don't know, the way they handled it here, I mean, it's okay, but it could have been better, because the whole plot point with the brother trying to get revenge for the previous villain, like with that subplot, it doesn't feel like it's the main through line. It just feels like it's something that's kind of the inciting incident, but then it just pops up here and there. I mean, the best analogy I can give is that Jason Statham's character is kind of like the tyrant in Resident Evil Outbreak. I know he goes by a different name, but just as a base example, he doesn't seem like the kind of villain in those earlier scenes that's meant to be defeated, that's meant to be outwitted. He's just basically the kind of guy that will just pop up in the middle of your operation and just make your day absolutely miserable. I don't know if it was intentional or not, or if it's the effects of the rewrites, but the way they had kind of the through line with the hacking program and then him just kind of popping up, it worked but didn't at the same time. I don't know, just something about the pacing to me just felt a bit off. Now to address a rumor I've been hearing regarding what they did in order to complete this film. The biggest one I've heard is that they had his brothers come in as stand-ins, and then they did a CGI recreation of Paul Walker's face over their faces, because it's easier to go over somebody's face that's actually similar to the person you're trying to recreate. And really, in my opinion, if they did that technique at all, they used it very minimally. I mean, a lot of the shots that you see that are genuine close-ups of Paul Walker, you're seeing the real Paul Walker. I can't really think of any major time where you could tell it was that kind of CGI, if they did it at all. Either they've broken past the uncanny valley, or they didn't really use it all that much and did a pretty good job of covering for the fact that they couldn't get all the scenes they had while he was alive. So really, it's just kind of a good example of if they did it, they used it minimally and made a really good effort with what they had. overall, I don't really have that much else to say about this film. I mean, it's an over-the-top action film, kind of like what you would see from the 80s, to be honest. I mean, if you like cheesy, unapologetic, enthusiastic, over-the-top action films, then this is the film for you. Now, I do have to take away some points for the crowded story, but I'm gonna be a little bit more forgiving because the crowded story may just be the result of all the emergency rewrites they had to do. So, all of that said, Furious7 gets a 4.5 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. And yes, the first episode of From the Shelf is on its way. It's just taking a little bit longer than expected. You'll probably see why once it's finished. I just have to get all the editing done, and so it's on its way. So yeah.